Hey listener, welcome. I'm glad you could join me tonight. I'm your storyteller and I'll be your companion as you drift off to sleep, or perhaps as you lie there wide awake listening to this story, unsure if you'll ever fall asleep again. It was just one of those typical quiet evenings. You know the kind, nothing special going on, the world humming along and the night creeping in slowly. I'd just wrapped up my shift at the coffee shop, the usual crowd, the same old routine. I guess that's what I liked most about my life. It was easy, predictable, and, well, normal. I wasn't the kind of person who craved drama. I preferred to just live in the background, in the comfort of being overlooked. My name is Sarah, by the way. I was 27 at the time, living alone in a small, slightly run-down apartment in a sleepy neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. There's nothing particularly special about where I lived, except that it was affordable, which is all anyone can ask. For these days, it was on one of those quiet nights that I met him. The man who would turn my life upside down, the man who seemed to know me better than anyone. But at first, he just seemed like someone you'd meet online, someone to chat with, someone who shared a few interests. That's how it started anyway. I was browsing through a forum late at night, the kind of place where people just talk about everything and nothing at the same time. It was mindless scrolling, really, a way to kill time before bed. And then I saw a message. It wasn't directed at me, but it caught my attention. The post was from someone named Alex. He'd written something about a book I'd just finished reading a few days prior. Not a bestseller or anything, just one of those obscure novels that most people wouldn't care about. But I'd felt an odd connection with it, and his comment, it was like he knew exactly what I had thought about the ending, even the parts I never really told anyone. The parts that lingered in my mind, those subtle details about the plot that most people would have missed. He got it. I don't know why, but I responded to him. We ended up chatting a little. It started with books, and then, of course, it drifted to other topics. The conversation felt so easy, so natural. We talked for hours, sharing our likes and dislikes, our random thoughts. It felt comfortable. Too comfortable, maybe, but I didn't think much of it. Then came the first time he finished my sentence. It was something silly, really. I was talking about how I always felt a little bit out of place when I went to social events. How I would go in, say hello to a few people, but then I'd just retreat to the edges and observe. And right before I finished the sentence, he typed, "And you feel like you're watching everyone else have a good time, but you can't quite fit in?" I froze for a moment. How did he know that? I'd never shared that with anyone, not even my closest friends. It wasn't something I usually talked about, just a feeling I kept to myself. I brushed it off. Maybe it was just a coincidence. People who spend enough time talking to each other sometimes just get you, right? But then he did it again. We were talking about a trip I'd taken years ago to the coast. I'd mentioned the drive, the long stretch of road that passed through the mountains before opening up to the ocean. And before I even finished describing it, he typed, "You could almost smell the salt water in the air before you saw the ocean. It's one of those things that sticks with you, like a memory you can taste." I felt a shiver run down my spine. It was exactly how I'd remembered that trip, but I'd never told anyone about it. I wasn't sure how he could know that detail, and I started feeling uneasy, but I couldn't figure out why. I started checking his profile more often, just to see if there was anything that could explain how he knew these things, but it was strange. His profile was mostly empty. No pictures, no real details. He didn't share much about himself, just vague, general statements. Still, he responded to my messages quickly, and we kept talking, the connection deepening over time. Then, a week later, I got a message from him that made my stomach drop. It wasn't on the forum, but on my personal social media account. I'd never given him my handle, never mentioned it in passing. Yet there it was, a message, and it wasn't a generic hello. It was a picture of my apartment building. I stared at the photo for a long time. I could see the exact angle from the street where the photo had been taken. The red brick walls, the worn-out sign with faded letters, and the dark shadows of the evening creeping around the edges. But there was no way he could have known where I lived. I hadn't even mentioned my neighborhood to him. I told myself I was overreacting. He was probably just some guy who'd Googled my username and found out where I lived. It wasn't impossible, right? But then, the next night, I received another message. It was another photo, but this one was taken from inside my building. This time, I saw a window. My window. I felt a cold sweat form on the back of my neck. My heart began to pound in my chest. How was this even possible? My apartment was on the 3rd floor, and the building across the street had a perfect line of sight to my window. It couldn't have been someone from that building, right? But still, the idea of someone watching me from the shadows felt like a nightmare. I tried to ignore it. I really did. I didn't want to let my imagination get the best of me, but it was getting harder to convince myself that I was just overreacting. It was the little things, the tiny details that started to make me feel like I was losing my grip on reality. How did he know where I lived? Why was he sending me these photos? Then came the day I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was home alone, scrolling through my phone on the couch when I saw a notification from him. A simple message. "I know you're home, Sarah." My blood ran cold. There was no way he could have known that. I hadn't posted anything about being at home, but I felt the chill creeping through my skin as I glanced toward the window. The blinds were drawn, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I got up and locked the door, my hands trembling. I was shaking, but I couldn't stop. I opened the app and saw the message again. "I've been waiting for you to notice." That was when the panic really set in. I quickly blocked him, but it didn't help. The messages kept coming, just from different accounts, different usernames. I realized he was tracking me. Every move I made, he knew when I was home. He knew when I was out, and that terrified me more than anything. For the next few days, I didn't leave my apartment. I couldn't bring myself to. Every time I stepped out, I kept looking over my shoulder. And no matter where I went, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was there, following me, watching me. Then, one night, it got worse. I heard a knock at my door. I froze. I hadn't ordered anything. No one was supposed to be visiting me. I crept over to the peephole and looked through. There was no one there, just a note shoved under the door. I didn't even want to pick it up, but I did. It was short, just 2 words. "I'm here." I called the police. They came, they checked the building, but they didn't find anything. It was as if he'd disappeared. They couldn't do much without evidence. And that's the thing, isn't it? You think someone's out there, but you have no proof. Just feelings. The next week, I left. I couldn't stay there any longer. But the fear never really went away. No matter where I moved, no matter how many times I changed my social media accounts or my phone number, the feeling lingered. The emails, the messages, they never stopped. I learned the hard way that when you meet someone online, sometimes you don't realize how much they can learn about you. Sometimes you don't realize how much they've already seen. Now, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, checking the locks, making sure I'm not being followed. People like that don't need a reason. They just need an opportunity. If you ever feel like something's off, trust your gut. it might be the only thing keeping you safe. Story 2. I still remember the first message like it was yesterday. It was late one Friday night. I was in my dorm room, hunched over my laptop after a long week of classes. It had been one of those exhausting days where you just want to escape your responsibilities for a while. I was scrolling through Facebook, idly chatting with some friends when I saw her. Her name was Emily. She'd added me as a friend the week before, and I didn't think much of it. I had a few mutual friends with her, all from my hometown. A couple of likes on photos, a comment or two on statuses. Nothing weird. But then, that night, she messaged me. At first, I thought it was a typo, or maybe a spam bot. I mean, I wasn't a stranger to getting random messages online, but they were usually from people trying to sell something or send links to weird sites. But her message, it was personal. "Hey, I saw you on your friend's page. You look like you go to my college. I'm Emily. I live in small town nearby. Just wanted to say hi." I had no idea who she was, but I figured I'd respond anyway. I was bored, and it felt nice to have someone new to talk to. College life wasn't always as social as I had hoped, and my roommate was out that night, so I didn't have anyone to talk to. "Hey, yeah, I go to college. How do you know? Friend's name?" Her response came quickly. "We went to high school together, but I haven't seen her in a while. It's funny though, because I saw you in one of her old photos. Anyway, I hope this isn't weird. Just wanted to say hi." I shrugged it off. People connect online all the time. I told myself it was nothing. She seemed nice enough. Normal, really. But then, things started to get strange. The first sign was when she mentioned her webcam was broken. I had made some comment about online classes or virtual study groups, and she mentioned how her webcam wasn't working, so she couldn't join. She seemed embarrassed about it. "Sorry, haha. I know it's so random, but my webcam is broken, and I can't afford a new one right now. I hate when that happens." I thought nothing of it, but the next part of her message lingered a little. "Maybe we can chat over text instead. I promise I'm not weird, haha." It wasn't a big deal. People don't always want to be on camera. I agreed, and we started texting a little more frequently, just casual stuff about our schools, hobbies, and life in general. The conversations were easy, and she was pretty engaging. But something felt slightly off. Not in a huge way, but you know when someone is just a little too perfect in the way they message you? I didn't give it much thought, though. But then, a few days later, Emily sent me a photo. At first, I didn't even think to question it. It was a regular selfie, smiling, sitting on a couch with a background of what looked like her dorm room. But then I realized it looked a little strange. The lighting was kind of off, and the quality wasn't great for a recent selfie. Her skin looked a little too smooth, almost too perfect, like the photo had been edited somehow. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she just had an old phone, or it was some weird filter she was using. But something still nagged at me. A day or two later, she sent me another picture. This one was different. She was standing in front of what looked like a park, and she had that same smile. But the more I looked at it, the more I felt unsettled. The photo looked dated. The way she was dressed, her hair, even the way the background was blurred out, it all looked like it belonged to another time. A year or two ago, maybe. But I didn't say anything about it. I just complimented her smile and moved on. Still, I couldn't shake that strange feeling. Over the next few days, she continued to send more pictures. Always of herself, always different locations, each one more dated than the last. At one point, she sent a picture that I couldn't even place in time. It was from an older phone, and there was a noticeable graininess to the picture. But what made it worse was how real it felt. It felt like it was someone from my past, someone I knew. I asked her about it one night. "Hey, just curious. Some of your pictures look like they're from a while ago. Is there something weird going on with your camera? Or are you using some old photos?" Her reply came quickly. "Oh, you caught me. My webcam's been broken for a while, but I've got some old photos lying around. So I've been using those. Sorry if it's weird, hope you don't mind." At that point, I thought it was just some quirky thing she was doing. Maybe she liked to take old pictures for fun, or maybe she didn't have a good camera. It didn't feel worth pushing any further, so I let it slide. But the more we talked, the more those photos started to disturb me. They were starting to feel like they came from someone else's life. And then came the moment that changed everything. I was home for the weekend, visiting my parents, when I got a message from Emily. "Hey, I'm really sorry to ask this, but do you mind if I send you one more photo? I just took it today and wanted to see what you think." I agreed, not thinking much of it. She'd sent me pictures like this before, so why would this one be any different? But when I opened the photo, my heart sank. It was a picture of Emily standing at a grave. I froze. My phone felt cold in my hand. There she was, standing next to a gravestone, smiling the same way she always did in her pictures. But something was wrong with the gravestone. I didn't recognize it. It wasn't a place I'd ever seen. I stared at it for a long time, trying to make sense of it. The name on the gravestone caught my eye. Emily Parker. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes. I had to be seeing things. My pulse started to race. "Emily?" I texted back, trying to stay calm. "Why did you send me a picture at a cemetery?" I waited. A minute passed, 2 minutes. Then finally she responded. "Oh, it's just a place I've been visiting recently. I don't know why I didn't tell you before, but my sister died 5 years ago. I go to visit her grave sometimes." I felt the world go cold around me. I stared at my phone. My mind was racing. 5 years? She had said she was a student at my college. She had said she was my age. But the girl in the photo, her smile, her eyes, looked too real, too alive. And then it hit me. The name on the gravestone wasn't her sister's. It was hers. I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to think. What was going on? Who had I been talking to? Who had been sending me those pictures? I asked her again, "Emily, where are you right now?" No response. I texted her a few more times. Nothing. I even tried calling. But Emily never answered. That night I did something I should have done days ago. I Googled her name. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Emily Parker, age 22. Died 5 years ago in a car accident. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. It felt like the room was closing in on me. My hands were shaking. I kept scrolling through the results, reading the stories. She had died, just as the obituary said. But how was that possible? Who had been sending me those photos? Who had been pretending to be her? The next few days were a blur. I blocked her account, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The photos, the conversations, the graveyard picture. I still don't know who was behind it. To this day, I still get messages sometimes, odd random messages from strangers. None of them ever sound like Emily, but I swear I can feel her presence in every message. Sometimes I wonder if it's really over. I haven't been on any social media since. I don't know what's worse, knowing I was talking to someone who died, or that they were pretending to be someone they weren't. Story 3. I don't know how to start this. Maybe I should begin by telling you that my life was pretty normal, pretty dull. I wasn't the kind of person who had exciting stories. I was just a guy living in a small apartment in the city, working a desk job, spending most of my time alone. Maybe that's why I ended up on those dating apps. At first, I used them like most people do. A quick distraction, a way to meet new people. It was a nice ego boost, honestly. I'd swipe through profiles, message a few people, but nothing serious ever came from it. Then, about 3 months ago, I matched with this woman. Her name was Sophie. She was stunning. Honestly, she looked like someone who could be a model. Tall, dark hair, and these eyes that seemed to draw you in, make you want to know everything about her. She was just the kind of person you'd think was too out of your league to even be on a dating app. But there she was. We started chatting. At first, it was typical small talk, but she kept coming back to me, asking questions about my life. She was genuinely interested, and after a few days, it felt like we'd known each other for years. It wasn't long before we moved off the app and started texting, then video chatting. It was all pretty exciting, but also a little strange. I mean, she was too perfect, too good to be true. I didn't think too much about it, though. Sometimes you meet someone and it just feels right. But then things started to get, weird. It started with the video calls. At first, they were fine. Sophie looked like Sophie, always smiling, always talking with that warm, inviting voice. But then, maybe a week into talking, something started to feel off. I remember the first time I noticed it. We were talking about our favorite movies. I was telling her how much I loved The Shining, and then, all of a sudden, her face flickered. It was quick, like a glitch in the Matrix or something, but I saw it. One moment, her face was all smiles, and the next, her skin went pale, like she'd been drained of color. It was almost like her face didn't quite match the frame, like the lighting was off. I thought it was just bad internet. You know how it is with video calls. Sometimes the connection isn't great and it messes with the picture. But then, it happened again and again. Each time, her face would flicker in a way that felt wrong. It would freeze, like a still frame from a movie, and then snap back. Sometimes it would happen when she was talking, and sometimes when she wasn't saying anything. But it always happened. I told myself it was probably just her internet connection too, but after a while I started to get unsettled. Still, I brushed it off. One night we were talking late, really late. I'd just gotten home from work and we were chatting about random stuff. She was telling me about a book she was reading, and everything was normal. But then her face flickered again. This time, it was different. It didn't just freeze, it morphed. Her face twisted like a bad Photoshop filter, and for just a moment, I swear I saw something else behind her. Like a shadow, a figure. It was so fast I thought maybe I imagined it. I blinked hard and asked her if she was okay. "Yeah, I'm fine," she said, brushing it off. "Just tired, I guess." But I wasn't convinced. The more I thought about it, the more I couldn't shake that feeling. Something was wrong. The next few days were a blur of unease. I started watching her more closely during our video chats. Every time the flicker happened, I'd tell myself it was nothing. But the problem was, it didn't feel like nothing. There was a weight to it. I don't know how to explain it, but the more I saw it, the more I felt like it wasn't just a glitch. It got worse. One night, while we were talking, I saw something different. Sophie's face didn't just flicker, it shifted entirely. The flicker wasn't just a momentary distortion. It was like her face had been replaced by something else. It was so brief, so fast, but I could swear I saw a different person staring back at me for just a split second. I asked her, "Sophie, what was that?" "What was what?" she replied, and I could hear the confusion in her voice. I hesitated for a moment. I thought about telling her what I saw, but I didn't. I didn't want to sound crazy. I didn't want to push her away. But that was the last time I ever saw her face the same way. The next night, I was sitting on the couch, looking at my phone, waiting for Sophie to call. When she did, I was more nervous than I'd ever been. I answered, and immediately, I noticed something different. Sophie's face, this time, wasn't just flickering. It was warping. I could see it clearly now. Her skin was no longer smooth. Her eyes seemed to stretch, and her lips contorted in a way that made my stomach churn. But it wasn't her doing it. It was like something was projecting her face onto her, as if someone was standing behind her, casting a shadow over her, making her face twist and flicker in real time. I froze. I could barely hear her voice, like it was muffled behind static, but I swear I saw it. Through the screen, her face started to move, like a reflection in a mirror that didn't quite match the movements of the person in front of it. Then, a sound. It was soft at first, a low thud against my window. I looked up from my phone, and I saw it. A figure, a shadow, standing just outside my window, motionless. I didn't know what to do. My mind was racing. Was it just my eyes playing tricks on me? Was this some kind of prank? But the figure, it wasn't just standing there. It was watching me. Sophie's voice echoed in my ears. "Are you okay?" But I couldn't respond. I was frozen. The figure outside the window took a step forward. And that's when I realized Sophie's face wasn't just flickering because of the internet. It wasn't a glitch. It was being projected onto her from someone standing outside my room. That's when I lost it. I slammed my phone down and ran to the window. No one was there. The street was empty, but the dread lingered. I couldn't shake it. I couldn't get the image of that face out of my mind. Sophie's face had stopped being hers. It had stopped being anyone's. The call stopped after that. Sophie didn't reach out anymore, and when I tried calling her, the line was dead. I tried texting. Nothing. It was like she vanished completely. I couldn't sleep for days after that. Every shadow in my apartment seemed to be hiding something. Every knock on my door felt like someone was watching me. I don't know who was behind it. I don't know why they did it, but I can't explain what happened, not in a way that makes sense. Maybe I'll never know, but I'll tell you this. If you ever see a face flickering on your screen, if something feels off, don't ignore it. It might not just be bad internet. It might be someone standing outside your window, and they're not just watching you. They're waiting for you to look away. Story 4. You know how sometimes you get that feeling? The one that tells you something's off, but you push it aside because, well, it can't be anything. I didn't know how wrong I was until it was too late. I'm going to start by saying that everything I'm about to tell you happened a couple of years ago. I still can't quite get it out of my head, even now. It's one of those things that, even when you try to forget, creeps back into your mind at night. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up a bit. I'm Aaron. I was 26 at the time, living in a small apartment in the city. I had a regular job at a digital marketing agency. It wasn't glamorous or anything, just a way to pay the bills and keep a roof over my head. I spent most of my days working at my desk, scrolling through social media, checking emails, all that boring stuff. My evenings were pretty uneventful too. I'd usually go for a walk around the neighborhood or binge-watch Netflix for a few hours before bed. I wasn't really into online dating. In fact, I'd never really tried it. The idea of meeting someone online, especially on a random app, felt weird to me. But after a few months of loneliness, being single and stuck in the same routine, I figured, why not? Maybe I could meet someone who'd add a little excitement to my life. That's how I ended up on a dating app called Meetwave. I don't know if it's still around, but back then, it was a pretty big thing. I created my profile, Nothing special, just the usual stuff. I put up a couple of pictures, wrote a short bio about myself, and crossed my fingers. I wasn't expecting anything serious, just a few conversations, maybe some casual dates. The usual. It didn't take long for someone to message me. His name was Josh. He had a picture of him on a beach, smiling at the camera with sunglasses on. Looked like your typical guy next door type. He messaged me almost immediately after I uploaded my profile, saying something like, "Hey Aaron, you have a great smile. What's your favorite thing to do in your free time?" At first, I thought it was just another generic opener, but his message felt different. He seemed genuinely interested, and we started chatting. It felt nice to have someone pay attention, you know? We talked for a while. Nothing too deep at first, just the usual getting to know you questions. What kind of music do you listen to? Do you like to travel? That sort of thing. But then, after a couple of days, something strange happened. I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through the app when I noticed something in my peripheral vision. My favorite coffee mug, the one I'd left on the counter earlier that day, was slightly turned. Not much, just a little. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe I'd knocked it earlier, or maybe the cat had pushed it. Still, it felt weird. I couldn't explain why. I shook it off, took a deep breath, and went back to my chat with Josh. He'd sent me another message while I was distracted, asking about my weekend plans. I responded, and we continued chatting. Over the next few days, things started to escalate. Every time I'd read a message from Josh, something small would change in my apartment. The chair I had by my desk was slightly moved out. From the table, the lights in the hallway flickered once when I walked past them, and my shoes, which I always kept neatly by the door, would be slightly misplaced. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid. I told myself I was imagining things. But the feeling, it was there. And Josh, well, he kept texting. It was always innocent stuff. But sometimes he'd say something that felt a little too personal, like, "I bet you look even more beautiful in person," or, "I love how your profile says you're into hiking. There's this amazing trail near you, isn't there?" The thing is, I hadn't mentioned any of that on my profile, but he somehow knew. It made me uncomfortable, but I didn't want to seem rude, so I kept responding. But then one night, it all came to a head. I was sitting on my couch, reading one of Josh's messages, when I felt that familiar chill, the one that ran down my spine when something was wrong. I glanced up at the TV, and for the first time, I realized that it was showing static. Not the regular kind, but the kind you see when the TV's been turned on but isn't receiving a signal. I got up to check it, but when I turned around, I noticed something else. A picture frame on the wall, a photo of me and a friend from a trip I'd taken the year before, had been moved. Just a little, but enough that it was obvious. I froze. I knew I hadn't touched that photo. And then I remembered. I'd left the door to my apartment slightly ajar earlier that day when I went to grab the mail. I had locked it, of course, but had I really locked it? That's when the text came through. "It's a nice photo, Aaron. I like that one a lot. I'm glad you shared it." I stared at the message for a few moments, heart pounding. There was no way. I hadn't posted that picture online. The only place it existed was in my apartment, framed on my wall. I messaged Josh, asking him how he knew about it. His response was almost immediate. "I've been paying attention. You're so easy to get to know, Aaron. You don't even realize it." I couldn't breathe. My phone was shaking in my hands. Something about that message, about the way it was worded, felt like a threat. I told myself to stay calm. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he was just really good at guessing. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The following days were a blur of unease and confusion. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I checked my locks over and over, double-checked my windows, even went so far as to buy new blinds for my apartment. But no matter what I did, that nagging sense of dread wouldn't go away. Then, the texts started to get darker. I saw you yesterday. That blue shirt looks nice on you. Too bad you were talking to that guy. I think he's bad for you. He knew where I had been and who I'd been talking to. But how? I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I asked Josh point blank how he was, getting this information, but his response was chillingly calm. "Don't worry about it, Aaron. I've got everything I need. I'm just getting to know you better." I don't even remember how, but I finally decided to call the police. I didn't know what to say. How do you explain something like this? But when I mentioned the weird messages and the things moving in my apartment, the officer just nodded, gave me a card for online harassment, and left. That was it. A few more days went by, and then one evening, something truly terrifying happened. I was sitting in my living room when I heard a noise, a soft click, almost like a door opening. I glanced around, but I was alone. I told myself it was just the wind, but when I checked my phone, there was another message from Josh. "You should check your closet. I left something there." I froze. My heart felt like it was going to explode in my chest. I ran to the closet, flung the door open, and there it was. A small, black camera hidden in the back of the shelf. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone and immediately called the police, but I knew deep down that it was already too late. Josh had been watching me for months. He knew everything about my routine, my apartment, even my most private thoughts. They never found Josh. At least, not that I know of. After the cops took the camera for evidence, I moved out of that apartment. I couldn't stay there, not knowing someone had been watching me, not knowing if they were still watching. I don't know what's worse, what he did to me, or the fact that he might still be out there, lurking in the shadows, doing this to someone else. If you take anything away from my story, it's this. Always trust your gut. If something feels off, if something doesn't sit right, don't ignore it. You don't always get a second chance. And to Josh, wherever you are, let's never meet again. Story 5. I'll never forget the first time I spoke to Sarah. I know, it's hard to believe, but when I first met her online, it felt like I was talking to a version of myself. It felt safe, familiar. Almost too familiar. I don't know if you've ever had a moment where everything clicks with someone, where they seem to know the same little things you know, have the same memories, the same fears, the same quirks. I don't know, maybe it's a rare thing, but that's exactly how it felt with Sarah. We met on a chat forum about childhood fears, of all places, and I'd never imagined that something so small, so innocent, would turn into what it did. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Let me take it from the start. My name's Rachel. At the time, I was 27 years old, living in a small apartment in Denver. I worked as a copywriter for a marketing firm, which was a job I had no particular passion for, but paid the bills just fine. My life was normal, average, if there's such a thing. I wasn't exactly thrilled, but I wasn't unhappy either. Had a decent group of friends, a routine, and evenings to myself. The kind of life you expect to have when you're just living, you know? It was in those quiet evenings that I found myself scrolling through different corners of the internet, looking for something to distract me. I'd been on a childhood fears forum for a while, just reading through threads, people sharing the weird, unsettling things they remembered from their early years. Not ghosts or supernatural stuff, just The things that can crawl under your skin and make you feel uneasy even as an adult. I was browsing through some old posts one night when I noticed a new message. The subject line caught my eye. Do you remember the sound of footsteps? It was just a simple question, but something about it tugged at me. I clicked on it. The message was from someone named Sarah. She talked about how, growing up, she'd always been haunted by the sound of footsteps, soft, barely audible, but constant. It was never anyone she could see, but she could hear it clear as day, like someone was walking around her house late at night. The same feeling, over and over. The way the floorboards creaked, the sound echoing in empty spaces. She didn't say it in a scary way, more like a soft confession, like she was sharing something personal. It reminded me so much of a fear I'd had growing up, the same feeling of being watched, but from the shadows. I sat there, staring at the screen for a few seconds, feeling my heart beat just a little faster. I had to reply. I told Sarah about my own version of the footsteps, how, as a kid, I'd lay in bed at night and hear them too, echoing through the hall. My mom always said it was the house settling, but it didn't feel like that. I knew it wasn't that. There was something else in the way those footsteps sounded, something I couldn't explain. I'd forgotten about it until that moment. But now, just reading her words, it all came rushing back. It didn't take long for Sarah to respond. Her message was short, but it hit me like a punch. She said, "I thought I was the only one who felt that. It was always the same for me, like I wasn't alone in my own home." Something about that, it clicked. We started talking more about other things, our childhoods, our fears, the odd memories that didn't make sense, the moments that stuck with us even though we couldn't explain them. It wasn't just the footsteps. We both had this overwhelming fear of mirrors, of catching something in them, something moving that shouldn't be. We'd both had that feeling as kids, staring into the bathroom mirror, almost daring ourselves to look away before something stared back. It was like we were the same person, separated by distance and time. We began chatting every day. It felt so natural, so easy. There were times when I could have sworn we were the same person. She'd tell me stories about things that happened to her when she was little, and they were like memories I had buried deep. Specific places, faces, dreams that seemed too real to be dreams. It was bizarre. Even the way she phrased things, it felt like I could hear my own voice speaking back at me. I told myself that it was just a coincidence, that we both had vivid imaginations as children, that it was normal to share certain fears. But it didn't feel normal. It felt impossible. In some strange way, it felt like we were connected. And the more we talked, the more I realized just how much we had in common. But there's always a but, isn't there? One evening, about a month into our conversations, something happened that made me start to question everything. I got a message from Sarah late at night, around midnight. She said she'd had a dream that felt like more than just a dream. In the dream, we were both children again, standing in a dimly lit hallway, the kind of hallway you'd find in an old house, with the wallpaper peeling and the floorboards creaking. She said she could hear those footsteps, our footsteps, and that we were both terrified. But when she turned around, she saw something, or someone. She didn't go into detail, but the message was full of urgency. The next morning, I woke up to a strange feeling that I couldn't shake, a lingering dread, like I had forgotten something important. A few hours later, I checked my inbox. There was a new message from Sarah. This time, she wrote something that made my stomach turn. I've been remembering something more and more lately. I know it sounds crazy, but I think we're connected in a way that goes beyond just sharing memories. You're not going to believe me, but I think the footsteps we heard, they weren't just from our houses. They were part of something bigger, something that's been following us. I read that sentence over and over, trying to make sense of it. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I should have just stopped talking to her then, but something in me, some stupid curiosity, kept me going. I replied with a simple, "What do you mean?" But she didn't answer right away. The next few days were strange. I could feel her pulling away, becoming more distant. Every message she sent felt like it was leading up to something, but she kept avoiding it. Then, one evening, I saw something that I wish I had never seen. A new message from Sarah. I remember who we are, and I remember what happened to us. My heart skipped a beat. Then she told me something that I can't forget. She said she remembered a place, a cabin, a place we'd both been to when we were younger, when we didn't know each other. And when she described it, I knew exactly what she was talking about. It was the place my parents had taken me when I was 8, the place where everything changed, but I couldn't understand. How did she know about it? I never told her. I didn't even tell my closest friends about that trip. It had been years since I thought about it. I tried to shake it off, but the more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. I tried calling her, texting her, but nothing. She'd gone silent. A few weeks passed, and I thought maybe it was just an online friend thing. Maybe she'd gotten busy or lost interest. But then, one night, I got a letter. It was handwritten, something I hadn't seen in a long time. The envelope was old-fashioned, yellowed at the edges with my name written in neat looping script. I opened it, and my heart stopped. It wasn't a letter from Sarah. It was a letter from someone else entirely. The letter detailed everything, every single detail of my childhood fears, the ones I had only shared with Sarah. It even described the cabin, how it was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by trees. But what really shook me was the last line. "You don't remember me, Rachel, but I remember you. I remember what happened that day, and I'm not finished yet." I threw the letter across the room, panic flooding my chest. I don't know how long I sat there shaking before I heard the sound. Footsteps. But not from outside my apartment. These were inside my own place. I turned around, but there was no one there. And that's when I realized Sarah wasn't just some random person I met online. She wasn't who she said she was. She had been fishing for something, for me. And now, whatever she or it was coming to finish what it started. I don't know where Sarah went after that. I don't know if she's still out there or if it was all just one twisted game. But I've learned something. Some memories should stay buried, because sometimes the past doesn't want to stay in the past. And now, I'm not sure who's really following who. If you ever meet someone online who seems too familiar, take a step back. It might be too late to get away once you realize what they're really after. Story 6. I don't know if I should even be sharing this with anyone, but something in me feels like I need to get it off my chest. Maybe it's guilt or fear, or maybe it's just the need for someone to know what happened to me. I still think about it almost every day, even though it's been a while now. And in case you're wondering, yes, it's a true story. I wish I could say it was a nightmare, but unfortunately, it was all too real. I'm Sarah. At the time, I was 28, living in a modest apartment in Chicago, working as a freelance graphic designer. Nothing too glamorous, but I loved it. I had the kind of life that seemed normal, even a little boring. I didn't mind. I had a small group of friends, a few online acquaintances, and a job that kept me busy enough. Most of my days blended together in a haze of designing websites, sending out emails, and meeting up with friends for drinks on the weekends. Life felt stable, maybe even a little too predictable. It started when I joined an online dating site. Wasn't exactly looking for love, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to meet some new people. You know how it is, boredom, curiosity, and the occasional why not. So I made a profile. It was pretty basic, just a few pictures, a description about myself, and a couple of things I liked. I wasn't expecting much, but within a few days, I got a message from someone named Jake. He was 31, lived a few hours away in another part of the state, and worked in IT. His profile seemed normal enough. He looked like someone I'd swipe right on if I were scrolling through. Nothing about him screamed red flag. At first, things were casual, just chatting, small talk, getting to know each other. But over time, I started to feel like we clicked. His messages felt thoughtful, like he was really paying attention to what I said. He'd ask about my day, tell me about his job, and occasionally share funny stories about his friends. It was nice. Nothing too intense, nothing alarming. But then, things started to change. One night, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through Instagram, when I got a message from Jake. It was late, almost 11 p.m., which was a little unusual for him. He'd always been an early riser, so late-night messages weren't his usual thing. His message was short, but there was something in it that set me off. "Hey, Sarah, I've been thinking. You seem like such a kind person, and I feel like we're really connecting. But I have to ask you something. I'm not sure if you're being entirely honest with me." I stared at the screen, my stomach dropping. I had no idea where this was coming from. Jake had always been sweet and considerate, so the accusation felt out of nowhere. I replied, "What do you mean? I'm not hiding anything from you. What's going on?" He didn't respond immediately, which only made the tension worse. I sat there, staring at the blinking dots on my phone, waiting for him to answer. And when he did, it was more cryptic than the first message. "You're not who you say you are you?" Now, I don't know about you, but when someone says something like that, especially someone you trust, it messes with your mind. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was a joke, right? Just a misunderstanding. But Jake wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing me, asking questions I couldn't really answer. Things like, "What's your real name?" and "Why don't you post any pictures of yourself on social media?" I felt like I was being interrogated. It was odd, and honestly, I started to feel uncomfortable. I told myself it was nothing, that maybe he was just being a little paranoid. But the more he pressed, the more I started doubting myself. What if there was something I was hiding? What if I had done something to make him suspicious? My head was spinning. Eventually, Jake stopped messaging me altogether, which I thought was a relief. I took a deep breath and went about my life, convincing myself that everything was fine. But then, a few days later, I got another message, this time from a different account. "Jake's not who you think he is." The message came out of nowhere, no subject line, no introduction. It was just those 6 words, and then a photo. A grainy, poorly lit photo of a man standing on the street, looking over his shoulder. I didn't recognize him, but there was something about the picture that made my skin crawl. The message had come from an anonymous account. No profile picture, no information, just a blank, empty profile. But the way they had phrased it, like a warning, made me feel even more uneasy. I showed the message to a friend of mine, Laura, who was a little more tech-savvy than I was. She suggested I hire someone to look into it, maybe a hacker or a private investigator who could dig into Jake's background and figure out if there was anything suspicious going on. I hesitated. It seemed extreme, right? But after a few days of sleepless nights and weird messages, I finally gave in. I contacted a hacker through a dark web forum I had found. The whole process felt sketchy and uncomfortable, but I was desperate for answers. The hacker's name was Spectre. I never got his real name, of course, but he seemed to know his stuff. He told me he could trace Jake's digital footprint, and within a couple of days he'd get back to me with something solid. I waited anxiously. And then, a week later, Spectre sent me a message. My heart raced as I opened the file he'd sent. What I saw made my blood run cold. "Jake is real," the message said, "but you're the one they should be worried about." The file contained screenshots from a website I'd never seen before, one where users could report online profiles that seemed suspicious or fake. There, in a long list of profiles, was my own face, my real face, not the one I had posted online, but one that had been taken years ago at a party I didn't remember attending. I didn't know how this hacker had gotten it, but there it was, my photo, linked to a different name and an entirely different set of personal details. It was all there. And Jake, the man I thought was too good to be true. He wasn't the one with the fake profile. I was. The more I dug into the hacker's findings, the more I realized that I had unknowingly been creating a fake version of myself online. And somehow, I was the one being investigated. I had been the one who had been reported as suspicious by dozens of people. There was a profile I had made years ago, one I had completely forgotten about. It was a clone of me, a person who didn't exist, using my face and details, but living a life that wasn't mine. I had no memory of making it, no idea how it had come to be. Jake had been warning me the whole time. It wasn't just the fact that I had created this fake persona. It was the fact that Jake had been trying to warn me all along, but I hadn't listened. I couldn't understand how it all connected. Why would I have created such a profile? Was I hiding something from myself? Or had someone else been using my image to lure people in, just like I had been lured in? The fear and confusion crept into every corner of my life. I could no longer trust the person I saw in the mirror. I couldn't even trust the people I thought I knew online anymore. I ended up blocking Jake and the hacker too. But the damage was done. My life, once normal, felt like it had been turned upside down. Every social media account, every profile I'd ever made felt like a lie. I changed my online presence completely, started fresh, and vowed never to get too close to anyone again, especially online. Now, I keep to myself. I don't trust anyone who comes into my life too easily, and I'm always a little on edge when it comes to digital privacy. Sometimes, when I get a random message from someone I don't know, I wonder if it's someone I've crossed paths with before, someone who might remember the fake version of me. You'd think this stuff only happens in movies or to other people, but trust me, it can happen to anyone. If you're ever doubting who you're talking to online, trust that instinct. It could be the only thing standing between you and something much worse. If you're listening and you feel like something's off, take a second to look deeper. It might not just be your online boyfriend who's hiding something. It could be you. Story 7. You never really think it's going to happen to you. It's one of those things that when you hear someone else talk about it, whether it's a friend telling a story or some YouTube video about how someone almost got kidnapped or worse, you think, okay, that's creepy, but I'm too smart for that. That would never happen to me. I thought that too, but now I'm not so sure. It all started innocently enough. My name's Kate, I'm 26, and I've always considered myself pretty careful online. I'm a data analyst, so I spend a lot of time in front of a computer, And yeah, like a lot of people, I've got some online friends. You know how it is. Chats in Discord, random Reddit conversations, gaming, Twitter, Instagram. It's easy to meet people, and most of the time it's harmless. I had one friend, let's call him Ryan. I met him on a gaming forum about a year ago. He was always friendly, funny, and surprisingly insightful. We'd talk about games, life, whatever. It never felt weird, just normal, casual internet friendship. At first, it was just messages, but eventually, we added each other on Discord, and sometimes we'd video call. There was nothing alarming about it. He lived in a different state, a few hours away, and honestly, I didn't think much about it. He was just another person to chat with when I had a spare moment. We'd joke about random stuff, share memes, and sometimes talk about serious things. Too, like work, stress, family, and even relationships. I always felt safe, like we were both just two people killing time while being productive. But one night, I got a message from him that felt different. It was late, around midnight, I think, and I was finishing up some work. Ryan sent me a text. It was simple enough. "Hey, Kate, can you turn on your location sharing on your phone, just for safety, you know?" I remember blinking at the message, confused. I mean, I get it. It's nice to know where your friends are if something goes wrong, but it felt a little off. We were friends, sure, but we weren't that close. And if I'm being honest, I don't usually share my location with anyone unless they're really close to me, like family or maybe a best friend. I thought about it for a second. It was probably nothing. Ryan had always been nice, not pushy, but something about it felt strange. I shrugged it off. "I'm good, thanks," I replied. "I'm safe here." "Appreciate it, though," his reply came quickly. "Just for peace of mind, you know. You never know who's out there. Plus, I always make sure my friends are safe." I hesitated. "I'll be fine, Ryan. I really don't need to do that right now." There was a long pause before he messaged again. "Okay, no worries. Just thought it might help." I could tell he was trying to back off. It was a small thing, really, so I let it go. The conversation moved on, and we started talking about something else, like it was no big deal. I didn't think much more of it. But that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. A few days passed and everything seemed normal again. But the next time we talked, Ryan brought it up again. "Hey, Kate, just checking. Did you think about turning on location sharing? It's really just for your safety." It wasn't even a question this time. It was more like a casual suggestion, like he was trying to convince me it was the right thing to do. I didn't respond at first. Something about it just felt off. Finally, I typed out, "I'm not comfortable with it, Ryan." He didn't reply for a while. I thought that would be the end of it. But then he messaged me again later, and this time, it was different. "It's okay, but just so you know, it's for your own good. People aren't always who they say they are." That hit me in a weird way. It wasn't just an innocent suggestion anymore. It felt like a warning. I remember staring at that message for a long time, my stomach turning. What did he mean by that? What did he know that I didn't? I didn't answer right away. I needed some space to think about it. A couple of days passed, and I tried to ignore the nagging feeling in the back of my mind. It was late one evening when I saw a notification from him on Discord. The message was short, but it was enough to send a chill down my spine. "Check your front door." I froze. The message was too direct, too specific. What did he mean? I lived in a small apartment, and the only person who knew I was home at that time was my roommate, who was in her room at the other end of the apartment. The doorbell rang, and for a moment, I thought it might be a delivery, but I had ordered nothing. I walked cautiously to the door, peeking through the peephole. No one. I opened the door, half expecting to find a package or maybe a mistake. Nothing. That's when my phone buzzed again. "Don't go out there, Kate. I'm watching." I didn't even feel my feet moving. I dropped my phone and just stared at the empty hallway. I had no idea what was going on. No idea how he could have known I was at the door. How did he know I was about to open it? I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was out there, watching me. From that night on, things escalated. He kept asking me to share my location. He'd always say it was for safety. He'd remind me how dangerous the world could be. But it wasn't just that. He started sending me pictures of places I hadn't told him I went. A street corner near my apartment, the park I walked through every morning. Once, he even sent me a photo of my front door. I started keeping my blinds shut all the time. I didn't walk outside unless I absolutely had to. Every sound made me jump. And then, one night, I came home to a note on my doorstep. It was simple, just one line. "Don't make me come inside." I don't know if I can properly explain the terror I felt when I saw that note. It wasn't just the words, it was the fact that someone had been there. Someone had been so close to my apartment, to my life, that they knew exactly where to leave it. It was no longer some weird online friend trying to act protective. This was real. Someone was outside, waiting. I called the police, but they didn't seem to take it seriously. They told me to be cautious, maybe change my locks, and let them know if anything else happened. But that was it. It felt like they didn't understand. I tried to reach out to Ryan again. I sent him a message asking, "What's going on? Why are you doing this?" His reply was simple. "Because I can't let you leave. You're mine now, Kate." That was the moment I knew for sure. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't about friendship. This was about control. I don't even know how to explain what happened next. It's all a blur. But somehow, by the grace of God, I managed to get out of the apartment without him finding me. I moved to a new place, cut off all my social media, and changed my phone number. But even now, months later, I still get the occasional message. I don't know if Ryan is still out there, still watching, but I know one thing for sure. There's a whole side to the internet that people like me never really think about. You think you're just chatting with someone harmless. You think it's safe, but you don't know who they are. You don't know what they want. And sometimes, no matter how careful you are, you can never really escape. So here's the thing. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, no matter how small or how innocent it seems, don't ignore it. I ignored my gut and it almost cost me everything. Sometimes the scariest part isn't what happened. It's knowing that it could happen again. And that's something I'll never forget. Story 8. I don't know where to start, so I guess I'll just dive into it. You might think this is some spooky, exaggerated tale, but I swear to you, every word of this is true. It happened to me, and to be honest, I'm still trying to make sense of it all. So here's how it began. My name's Emily. I was 24 at the time, living in a small apartment in the suburbs. Nothing crazy. You know, the usual. Work 9 to 5, hanging out with friends on weekends, the occasional Netflix binge. Life was comfortable, even boring. At times. I never thought anything weird would ever happen to me. It wasn't even on my radar. I was working as an admin assistant at a small marketing firm. I'd usually come home, grab some takeout, and scroll through Instagram or mess around on dating apps. At first, it was mostly harmless fun, just passing time, chatting with people, getting to know someone here and there. Nothing ever went past small talk until I met Jake. I don't know why I responded to his message. I get a lot of DMs from random people, and I usually ignore them. But something about Jake's profile caught my eye. He was tall, with dark hair, and he looked like someone I might actually enjoy talking to. He'd messaged me about a photo I posted on a hiking trail, and from there, we just started chatting. At first, it was casual. He asked about my favorite places to visit, what I did for work, stuff like that. Normal conversation. But then, as the days went on, we started getting deeper. We'd talk for hours at night about everything. Our childhoods, our favorite music, movies, the stuff we'd always dreamed of doing. He told me about his life, how he worked as a freelance photographer, traveling around the country, taking photos for magazines. He made me laugh, and he was incredibly sweet. He asked about me too. I don't know why, but I started opening up to him. It felt like he was genuinely interested in me. So I told him about my struggles, the small things that bothered me, even about my job and how I hated it, but was too scared to leave. He was supportive, understanding. It was the kind of attention I wasn't used to, and it felt nice. After a few weeks of chatting every night, he started suggesting that we meet up in person. At first, I laughed it off like, yeah, sure, let's meet up, like that'll happen. But Jake was persistent. He would say things like, I just want to see if you're as beautiful in person as you are over text, or I promise it. Promise, won't be awkward. We could just grab coffee. But every time he suggested it, I'd back out. I'd say, oh, I'm so busy. Or, maybe next week I've got a lot going on. It wasn't that I didn't want to meet him. It was just, I don't know, I wasn't ready. There was something about the whole situation that didn't sit right with me, though I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe I was just overthinking it. After all, we'd been talking for months and everything seemed fine. Eventually, Jake grew more insistent. Let's meet. I've been thinking about you a lot, he'd text. I promise it'll be worth it. Still, I kept putting him off, telling myself that I was just being cautious. Maybe I was. But then one night, after a long chat where he shared some really personal stuff, like how his parents had divorced when he was a teenager, how he struggled with depression for a long time, I felt bad for him. I thought, maybe I'm being too cold. Didn't want to be another person who ignored him, so I agreed. Okay, let's do it. Let's meet up tomorrow. I remember that night clearly. I couldn't sleep because I kept thinking about what I was getting myself into. It felt like a big step. I hadn't even asked for his real name. Just Jake was all I knew. But I told myself it was probably nothing, just a regular guy. What was the worst that could happen? The next morning, I got up early to prepare. I texted Jake to confirm the time, and he said, I'll be there at 2 p.m. Don't worry, I'll be wearing a blue hoodie so you'll know it's me. I was nervous, but I figured, hey, I'd met people from dating apps before. It's just coffee, right? But as the time passed, I started to feel weird. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was my gut telling me something wasn't right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I was getting these weird notifications on my phone, like random friend requests from people I didn't know, and some of them had mutual friends with me. I ignored it, thinking it was just spam. Then, just as I was about to leave the apartment, I got another message from Jake. This time, it was different. I've been thinking about it and I'm really nervous. Do you mind if we meet somewhere more private, just to avoid distractions? I know a place. It wasn't like him. The Jake I knew was calm, cool, and easygoing, but this felt like a red flag. So I told him, actually, let's just meet at the coffee shop. It'll be easier. I never heard back from him after that. I waited at the coffee shop for about 40 minutes, scanning the crowd for anyone who looked like Jake, but no one did. I wasn't sure if I should be relieved or disappointed. The whole thing felt off. Then, just as I was about to leave, a man walked in. Tall, dark hair, blue hoodie. I froze. I didn't know if it was him or not, but he looked just like the photos. He looked around the room, and his eyes briefly met mine. That's when I felt it. He was staring at me, not in a friendly way, but like he was sizing me up. My heart started racing. I didn't even know how to react. What was going on? He slowly made his way toward me, and just as he reached my table, he smiled. "Emily?" I didn't know what to say. "Yeah?" My voice sounded weak. "I'm Jake," he said, still smiling, but something about his smile seemed forced. I froze. There was something in the way he said it that didn't sit right with me. Before I could respond, another voice came from behind me. "Is this her?" I turned around, and my blood went cold. There, standing behind me, was another guy. He looked almost identical to Jake, except his hair was a little lighter. Same build, same face, same eyes, just different in the smallest ways. The new guy smiled. "You must be Emily. You look just like I imagined." I was paralyzed. Who the hell were these people? Was I being set up? My mind was racing. Jake, the first one, looked back at me and then at the second guy. "You're not her." The second guy raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? She looks exactly like her." And just like that, I realized something. I wasn't talking to the person I thought I was. One of these guys wasn't who they claimed to be. Before I could say anything, Jake grabbed the second guy's arm and said, "Let's go." They left, and I was left there, completely freaked out. The whole situation felt like some sick joke. But the worst part, I never saw either of them again. I never met up with the real Jake. I couldn't find him anywhere. All his social media was gone. His phone was disconnected. But here's the kicker. Months later, I came across a news article. Some woman had been catfished by a man she met online. She was found dead. The man she was talking to had been using pictures of a completely different guy who looked exactly like the person she thought she was meeting. I don't know what happened to the people I met that day, but I can't shake the feeling that one of them took my place, that they met someone else who looked like me and disappeared into their world. I'll never know what happened, but I do know this. Sometimes you don't realize how easily someone can take over your life until it's too late. So, my advice to you, trust your gut. And never ever meet someone you've only talked to online without being certain they are who they say they are. You never know who's on the other side of the screen. I still wonder if I'll ever see them again, and if I do, what they'll want. And that thought, it keeps me up at night. Story 9. I guess I'll start by saying I never thought of myself as the kind of person who would end up in one of those true crime stories or whatever. I mean, I wasn't a thrill seeker, wasn't into anything wild. My life was pretty average, boring even. I had a decent job working in marketing, a small apartment in a quiet part of town, and a couple of cats I loved more than I'd like to admit. The kind of life where nothing ever felt off. Until one night, it did. And suddenly, everything that felt normal, everything that I trusted, was thrown into question. But first, let me give you a little more context so this makes sense. My name's Alex. I'm 32, and I live in a city that's small enough to feel like a tight-knit community, but large enough to get lost in if you want to. I've always been the type who keeps to myself. It's not that I don't like people. I do. I just don't have the energy for anything that feels too complicated. At the time, I was living alone in an apartment I could just about afford. I didn't mind the solitude. Actually, I found it comforting. It was routine, predictable, nothing ever felt too unexpected. I'd wake up early, make my coffee, go to work, get back around 6, and then spend the evening either reading or watching TV with my cats curled up on the couch. Life was pretty boring, but in a good way. That all changed one evening in late spring. I remember it was a Wednesday. It had been a long day at work and I was tired, just ready to relax at home. I'd already fed my cats, settled into my couch, and was flipping through some random YouTube videos when I heard the sound. At first, I thought it was just the wind outside, or maybe a car driving by. But then it came again, a soft scratching sound coming from my balcony door. I figured it was just a bird or something, maybe a branch rubbing against the glass. It was late, and I wasn't exactly in the mood to investigate. So I ignored it, went back to watching videos. But then the scratching came again, this time louder and closer. I remember feeling a chill run down my spine. It wasn't just a bird. It wasn't a branch. It was something else. I got up slowly, my eyes darting over to the balcony door. The light outside was dim, casting long shadows. I pulled the curtain back, just a little, enough to see the patio. Nothing. I'm sure I imagined it, I told myself. But still, I couldn't shake the unease. I double-checked the locks on the door and went back to the couch. Still, something felt off. I felt like I was being watched. I didn't sleep well that night. Every little sound had me on edge, but I told myself it was nothing. Maybe I was just tired. It was late after all. The next morning, I went about my routine like normal. But later that day, something happened that made me second-guess everything. I'd gone out to grab lunch, and when I got back to my apartment, there was something on my balcony, a fishing lure. It was small, silver, and shiny. It looked out of place, like someone had just dropped it there. Now I know what you're thinking. It's a fishing lure, big deal. But here's the thing, it wasn't there the night before. I was sure of it, and it definitely wasn't mine. I don't fish. I don't even know anyone who does. It was strange, sure, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was just someone's weird prank. But still, it bothered me. I didn't tell anyone about it, not at first. I told myself I was just overthinking things. But as the days went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It wasn't just the fishing lure, though. There were other things, small things, like the way I started noticing a car parked outside my building at odd hours. It wasn't anything glaring, but it was always the same car, a beat-up old sedan. I'd see it in the morning sometimes, or late at night when I was heading out. It wasn't a car I recognized. I thought it was nothing, maybe just a neighbor's car. But then one night, after I'd gotten home late from work, I saw the same car parked across the street. The lights were off, but when I walked past it on my way to my building, I saw movement inside, just the faintest shift of the driver's seat. Someone was there, watching. My heart started racing. I told myself it was a coincidence. I mean, who would be following me? But over the next few days, the same car was always there. Every time I came home, it was parked in a different spot, like it was always waiting for me to come back. And it wasn't like I was just seeing things. The car was always parked at the same times. It became routine. I was freaked out, but I didn't want to overreact. So I talked to a couple of friends about it. "I think you're just being paranoid," my friend Sarah said when I mentioned the car. "It's probably nothing. People park weird places all the time." But her words didn't make me feel any better. I started looking over my shoulder whenever I went out. I'd watch the car, wondering if someone was inside watching me. One night I got home late from work. It had been a long day, and I wasn't thinking about anything, other than crashing on the couch. But as I was walking up to my door, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The balcony door was wide open. I was sure I'd locked it before I left. But there it was, open, just a crack. My mind raced, heart hammering. I couldn't remember the last time I'd left it open, but it didn't make sense. Nothing had been disturbed. Nothing was missing. Still, it felt wrong. I checked the place, the whole apartment. Nothing. But as I walked through the rooms, I noticed something else, something small. There was another fishing lure sitting on my kitchen counter. I felt a sick, sinking feeling in my stomach. This wasn't some weird coincidence. Someone was leaving things for me, watching me. I called the police, of course, but they were polite, but not exactly helpful. They took a report and said they'd keep an eye out, but I wasn't stupid. I knew they weren't exactly going to camp out on my street just for a few lures and a suspicious car. It was after that when things really started escalating. I started getting messages on social media at first. I'd wake up in the morning to a notification that someone had messaged me. It was a simple message. Caught any fish lately? Just that. I blocked the account, but it didn't stop. The messages kept coming. Did you find the lure? I hope you like it. And then came the photos. I woke up one morning to find a picture of my apartment building, taken from across the street. A picture of my window, where I usually sat with my cats. It was taken at night, the glow of my lamp casting shadows through the curtains. I froze, staring at the photo. My first thought was that maybe it was just some prank from someone who knew me. But when I checked the timestamp on the photo, it was clear that whoever took it was there the night before, and they'd been watching me. After that, it didn't stop. It only got worse. I started seeing the same beat-up sedan outside, parked even closer to my building, parked near my car. The fishing lures kept showing up, always in strange places, like on my doorstep or under the doormat. And every time I went out, I felt like someone was following me. I got in touch with my landlord, hoping they might have security cameras that could help. But when we checked, the footage was missing. It had all been deleted, they said. Convenient, right? I didn't believe it for a second. I felt completely helpless. Then one night, it all came to a head. I was at home, watching TV, trying to relax when I heard it again, the soft scratching sound. Only this time it was louder, closer, like it was right outside my door. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, when I heard a voice, a whisper just loud enough to hear through the door. You didn't catch anything, did you? That's when I realized. Whoever this was, they were inside. They'd been inside my space for days, maybe weeks. I don't remember what happened next. Panic took over. I grabbed my cats, ran out of the apartment, and screamed for help. I'm not even sure who came to my aid. Neighbors, maybe. Someone called the cops. They arrived soon after, but by then, the person was gone. The police didn't catch anyone. They didn't even have a suspect. The car was gone. The lures stopped coming, and everything just faded. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't gotten out that night. I still don't feel safe, even now. And the weird thing is, sometimes I still feel like someone's watching me. Even now, years later, every time I pass a car that looks too familiar, I wonder if it's the same one. Every time I walk into my apartment, I check the balcony door. Sometimes the scariest part isn't the actual horror. It's the feeling that it could all happen again, that you're just waiting for the next scratch at the door. If your gut tells you something is wrong, listen. It might be the only thing keeping you alive. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more stories that might just keep you up at night.